There we go. EJ, what up? All right, so let's get to the dissection of Becker's gonna run down what coaching candidates are left as finalists and what is the front office of the Cardinals telling him the plan is to the situation that is more goes back to school. The Jets are in front of you with 2 first-round picks, and the Cardinals had 3. And I would have a hard. I'm gonna start by asking you this first. I have a hard time believing that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch would trade Mac Jones in division to y'all.
No, that's not gonna happen. I can tell you that for certainty. There's no way Mac Jones is gonna get traded in the division. Not after, especially what he did in filling in for Purdy. There's absolutely no way they're gonna trade him, and especially trade him in division. So that's you can put that to rest easily.
All right, so from looking at Spotrac of all the free agent QBs, which is probably the thinnest set of free agent QBs I've seen in a like last year was like Sam Donald, Dan Jones, like it was a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this year, you're gonna laugh. All right, Daniel Jones ain't playing next year. Aaron
No,
Rodgers is
he's
40,
gonna
gonna
miss
be
all year.
43. He may retire. You got Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Zach Wilson, and Malik Willis is the top free agent, the top free agent QBs, and probably the most sought after person is already on your roster, but you can't let him get to mid March.
Yep.
So what would you do? You the GM. You interviewing a head coach, and the head coach got questions. Hey, GM Becker, like, what's the QB situation like draft wise, and what is it like in free agency? Like, what's y'all playing?
Yeah, so if you're going to look at the draft this season, obviously we got the number 3 pick, we got pick number 34, and we got the first pick of the third round. So there is draft capital there to be made. Like I don't think they're going to move off of 3 this year, even though our GM he's got a history of wheeling and dealing on the draft night. But given the absolute thin roster of quarterbacks that's coming out in this class, I mean, after Mendoza, you really only got 2 options you're looking at that could be in that possibility of a late round first round pick or a beginning of the second round, and that's Simpson or Trinidad Chambliss. And we don't even know what Chambliss's situation is going to be because he's got the lawsuit that he's trying to file with the NCAA right now. So you package all that in, you got a situation where the whole NFL league is basically telling the Arizona Cardinals organization, one, we don't really give a damn what y'all do down there because you guys have a notorious history of being one of the oldest franchises in the entire NFL, and you are now tied already with the Houston Texans for the least amount of playoff wins in all of the NFLs. Of every NFL team in the league, we are tied with the Texans at 8 wins in the playoffs in our entire history. Texas only been around for 23 years now. We've been around for over 100. You've dating back before the Super Bowl era. You have this stigma about your franchise about being just a badly run franchise. You have really outside of Bruce Arians and Ken Wisenhunt, you've become the staple of a team that nobody is going to want to go to. You're in a very difficult division. Some would say probably the most difficult division in the NFL. I mean, we saw 3 of the final 4 teams in the NFC playoffs this
Yo,
year were
Jason,
from the
appreciate the
NFC
sub on
West, and
YouTube.
the final 2 in the NFC Championship are from the West. So you're going to have that stigma. You're going to have to, proceed with caution with when trying to find someone. Hey, who wants to come in here and compete in this, gauntlet of a division? And with you having that stigma of being a franchise that's not any good and constantly rotating through coaches, and you're in this situation now where you've fallen with your franchise quarterback to the point where the relationship's not repairable at this point. Kyler doesn't want to stay in Arizona. The front office has already made the plans to move on from him, so there's going to be no repairing that relationship. It's just time for both parties to go their separate ways. Let the franchise try to find their answer at quarterback and let Kyler start his career over and see if he can get a second renaissance wherever that he lands. So you look at the free agent class and then you look at the quarterback class. It's going to be very, very difficult to try to sell that to any of these established coaches. That's why, yes, you might have reached out to a John Harbaugh for a phone call. Never took you seriously as a place that he would go. Robert Saleh, maybe you had him interested because of the pieces you had on defense, but what was the stigma that cost him his job in New York? Quarterback play.
QB.
So why would he want to go? This is his second chance, might be his last chance at being a head coach in this league. Why would you want to go to New York to do New York Jets Part 2?
Don't make sense.
It don't make no sense. So let me go to a franchise where, yes, there's a lot of pieces that need to be filled on both sides of the ball, but I know I got my quarterback and I have some pieces I can start building around. So that's an easy sell compared to what you got over here, where, yes, we have lots of good pieces, but the most important piece that we don't have is quarterback, because everybody knows. I mean, it's basically well known. Kyler's not going to be here. Whether we trade him or cut him, he will not be on the roster by the 5th day of the league year in March. I can guarantee you that.
You know what makes it
And
worse for y'all?
Mhm.
The Bills and the Steelers are available.
Exactly.
So the best two coaches that haven't got jobs are still coaching right now, Kubiak, Chris Shula, are probably
Mhm.
gonna go there, and they probably telling Daboll in New York, we really want a chance to interview Shula or Kubiak or even Joe Brady, but
Yeah.
it might be a situation where they're telling Daboll like, you gotta wait, like you gonna be there, cause like we'll take
Yeah.
our chances that Kubiak or Chris Shula is not turning down the Bills or the Steelers.
Yeah, and that's the thing when you fall under when you want these different coordinators that you were very interested in, but they're still in the playoffs. You can't officially interview them, and even if you want to give them the job, until they're out of the playoffs, you can't officially announce that they've either accepted or you know you're going to offer them the job.
So then, like,
So I know from everything that they've been discussed is they are very infatuated with the two coordinators in Los Angeles. They are really interested in Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, and Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator.
but what's tough is going past the Bills and Steelers being better
Let me
jobs.
teach you how to vibe.
Then you have the Raiders of the three teams left who have the number one pick in Tom Brady running the
Exactly.
show.
Like if you
And
would have just be able to have that number one pick, or at least some kind of semblance of what you're going to be at quarterback,
right,
it's going to make this job that much more appealing. And that's like even with the Raiders, as much of a dumpster fire as they have been for 20 plus years now. They got the number one pick. They're going to get their quarterback, and they have now Tom Brady, involved in all the operations that are going on. So
and
you have something that you can build from there. You have some of the pieces. You have the running back in Genty. You have a stud tight end in Brock Bowers. There's pieces that you can work with.
it
But the
really
most
is.
important one being the number one pick.
It is that. And then if you the Browns, who another dumpster fire, but the Browns are about to be away from the Deshaun Watson situation. Stefanski's out. You got the Shadur Gabriel situation to deal with. But the one thing the Browns have that the other teams don't is the Browns have 2 first-round picks. So
Mhm.
yeah, if I'm selling the Browns, I'm like, hey, this other team don't got it figured out. You get Shadur Sanders in 2 first.
You got 2 first-round picks, and you have a Super Bowl caliber defense on the other side of the ball.
And if it's a defensive-minded coach that's taking the interview, like Shula, or something, like you're gonna get the best defensive player in football
Mm-hmm.
to start, and then like that's the interesting thing about this coaching carousel with having so many teams have coaches open and the free agent QB pool being so small and the draft class. Now, let me throw another monkey wrench. Let me throw another monkey wrench. let's say Trinidad Chambers wins his appeal and goes back to college. We talking about going from Fernando Mendoza to Ty Simpson to Garrett Nussmeier.
It's bad. I mean, it's really like this was the one time when it was really not a good idea to be bad and need a quarterback, i.e., Jets, Cardinals, Browns. All these teams that are still looking for that franchise quarterback. This was the worst possible time. If you were going to be bad, you needed to be the Raiders. You needed to have that number one pick.
And that's kind of been my thing is for all the people that was Abdul Carter, don't take Cam Ward. And this is where I get to
Yeah.
to
Could you imagine going into this draft if you had Abdul Carter and you did not have Cam Ward and you, like you talked about, what if you drafted Abdul Carter, just ran it with, Mason Rudolph and Brandon Allen, and then you come into this draft. What if you didn't get number one again? What if you were number two or three? You're gonna be right back in that same situation.
to me in a worse situation because when you had one, you get to control who you gonna have as the face of your franchise at QB. If it
Yep.
would have been this year, the best case scenario would have been the Titans saying, "Let Will Levis be 100% healthy." But I don't think you get Robert Saleh to sign into Nashville if his first year is we're gonna see if Will Levis can figure it out year 4.
Exactly.
Like that's a hard
At,
sale, man. Like, because
at
then
that
he's
point, if you're Robert Saleh, you're just gonna go back and be the DC and San Francisco because you know what you got, you know what the pieces are coming back, and you wait for another job next year.
because you're now because Bones Fossil is the special teams coach. He's been retained. They let Denard Wilson go, and now it's if he does hire an OC. Imagine if you're Dabo or you Kingsbury, and Robert Saleh calls you and they're like, "So what are y'all gonna do at quarterback?" He's like, "We're gonna roll Will Levis year 4." They probably hang up on you. It's like, and the thing about it is, I think Will Levis, somebody trading to get him and giving him another shot and drafting somebody in the later rounds. Like if Will Levis went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or he went even to y'all, or it's a lot of teams he would go to and be the best option.
Oh yeah, because like I said, no matter what the memes and the funny quips that they want to make about Will Levis, the last year that Vrabel was in Tennessee when he had him his rookie year, there was some flashes that you could see an NFL caliber starting quarterback from Will Levis. The problem is the following season you fire Mike Vrabel, you bring in Brian Callahan, and it completely, as you see, it completely stunted his growth because even when you bring in Cam Ward, when Brian Callahan was there, you didn't see the maturation. You didn't see, you know, Cam be able to take those next steps and learning the position as a, professional. It took Callahan leaving before you saw Cam let the game come to him, slow it down. Like you said, he went almost the last 2 months of the season without turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen if Callahan's still there, more than likely. So I would not mind at all if they took a flyer on a Will Levis to give him an opportunity to see what he has coming off a year where he, didn't he's gonna be healed up, he's gonna be ready to go. Give the kid a shot to see because, like I said, your options you don't have a lot of them.
They're
Are you
very
going to go and
limited.
give Malik Willis $100 million and hope to pray that maybe his time in Green Bay has allowed him to take that next step to be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Because we've seen he can do great things in the backup role.
Man, that's
But when you give him the keys to the kingdom, what's going to happen? Are you
it's
willing to invest $100 million and just to give that a role?
Oh shit. Here we go again.
hey look, this gotta be the saddest year for Cardinals because there would be an ego check of the Cardinals options being DeMercado fumbles the ball, the Titans beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals have by default the worst record than the Titans.
Mhm.
Get the pick. Dante Moore goes back to school. They don't win the tiebreaker with the Jets. They're sitting at 3, and the options is after Robert Saleh skipped out on the interview with y'all and never left Nashville and signed without even interviewing first. There's no way in hell the first 2 options at QB for the Cardinals in 2026 is Will Levis that they would have to trade to the Titans for to get, or the other former Tennessee Titan Malik Willis getting a nice size contract, probably $15 million a year to come play in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
With the likelihood that if y'all don't draft somebody behind that Jacoby Brissett steps in and has to play some games at some point anyways.
Yep.
That is,
I mean, it really
preposterous.
it's crazy. Like it's so crazy the way everything is just falling. Because like I said, going into this season, this was supposed to be a good season. Like this was supposed to be year 3 of the rebuild. You tore it all down to the studs in 2023.
Marvin
You
Harrison was
bottomed
supposed to
out.
break out.
And you come into the second season and the signs were there and we all knew it in 2024. We went into the bye week. We were 6-4. We were in first place in an NFC West that was on a down year. And we were all screaming, go for it, make a trade. Because one of the biggest things we needed was pass rushers. Like, go get a pass rusher, do something. The division is there for you to win, and this doesn't happen every year. When that opportunity is there, you have to go for it. You can't just sit back and be like, "Well, no, we're gonna. This is a rebuild," and like, no, this is the NFL. You don't get many opportunities to take the situation at hand if you have the opportunity. You can't just sit back and be like, "No, we're just gonna we're worried on a rebuild." If you have a chance in a division as tough as the NFC West with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDonald in his first season, if you have an opportunity to win that division, you go out and you take it. You do whatever you can to take it. Because then when the bottom falls out and you finish the year 2-5, your offense looks like shit. You can't get Marvin Harrison Jr. going. The offense is stagnant. You can't, you have no semblance of a passing game. And then you go into this next season, and the biggest mistake that Jonathan Gannon made as head coach is his loyalty to his coordinators, because he should have fired the offensive coordinator after last season.
They get a lot of them. I mean, look at the bullet that the Titans dodged in Stefanski. All the people crying for Stefanski. He goes to Atlanta and hires Bill Callahan, the first hire. If you're a Titan fan, like, what's he gonna do? His game plan to tell Borgonzi, I'm gonna come and I'm bringing Bill Callahan back.
Bringing Bill Callahan, and he brings Tommy Reese, his OC for freaking Cleveland.
That's
like,
what are you really doing? Crazy.
Like, and so, like, you go into the season, you don't fire the OC when you should have, when you had enough of a sample size to see after 2 seasons, the offensive coordinator, he might have been, good at, establishing a solid foundation with the run game. But the problem is you had a coach in-house already, and your offensive line coach, Clayton Adams. And when you saw that there was other teams in the league that were looking to get him as their offensive coordinator, and you let him walk out the door, and then you go into the season, you basically say, F it, we're going to run it back. We're not going to change nothing. We're just going to run it back. Everybody's coming back. It's another year in the system. We're going to be fine. You load up on defense, which was great. I love that they actually spent some money on defense. You sign Josh Sweat. You bring back Calais Campbell. You draft Will Johnson. You draft Walter Nolan. Defensive side of the ball, I thought with no doubt we're going to be good. The offensive side, we were still all worried. And then sure enough, you start the season off and you saw the first 2 games. They win the first 2 games in New Orleans and Carolina, but the offense is still stagnant. They're still not able to move the ball. And the difference being this time now you can't run the ball. Because we still had James Conner those first 2 games, and they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't establish their identity like they had been. And then you start to notice as the year goes on, we can't run the ball anymore. But who's able to run the ball? Dallas. With our offensive coordinator taking a Dallas offensive line that was all beat to hell, taking 6th-round picks, 7th-round picks, undrafted players, and making it to where they are actually an efficient running team. Javonte Williams has a career year.
He did.
I mean, and it's so frustrating because you had that in house. You could have just easily moved on from your OC and said, "Look, man, we're sorry, it's just not working. We're going to go in a different direction." You promote your offensive line coach to offensive coordinator, and at the very minimum, you're going to have great offensive line play because in the first 2 years of the first year of the rebuild, and then the second year when they blew their chance to compete for the NFC West, the offensive line was the strongest suit on the offense. That was the best position group on the offense was the offensive line. It was consistent. And you let the guy that was the catalyst of that walk out the door. And that is what ultimately cost Jonathan his job because then he was so loyal to his coordinators, he would not fire anybody. He wouldn't fire the defensive coordinator and they're giving up 40 burgers every other week. And your offensive coordinator, we are the only team in the NFL this season that did not score more than 27 points in a single game. And we finished the season scoring 20 points or less when we lost 9 straight games.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
All right, somebody got a question for you in the chat. Nessa, what up? Said, ask what he prefers that the Cardinals do in the NFL draft. So I'll pull that back up. Let's see. All right, let's just all assume that Fernando Mendoza is going 1 to the Raiders. The Jets are sitting at 2. They still have Justin Fields under a $14 million contract this upcoming season. Cardinals sit at 3. And we all have to say that, like, is Trinidad Chambliss coming out? Because him and Ty Simpson would be the only people that could be taking their QB in any kind of world that they could be taking.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what do you pick?
If we stick and pick at number 3, the only 2 positions I want them to look at, and I would hope that they would look at, is either Ruben Bain, because they've already been through this in before. Now, granted, I love Paris Johnson Jr. He's a fantastic player. He is a stalwart at left tackle. He's a building block, a big piece of what you want to build. Be lying if I didn't say there's many times when I watch the Houston Texans play and I see Will Anderson Jr. wreaking havoc and say, man, you could have had that at number 3 in that year's draft.
Yep.
And I don't know if, as Cardinal fans, we could sit there and take that again if we pass on Ruben Bain if he's there, depending on what the Jets do at number 2. I don't know. Like Arvell Reese, I don't see them going after because, especially organizationally wise, it gives me so much flashbacks to Isaiah Simmons, a jack of all trades. But
off
what is
ball,
the
jack of all trades,
what is
master
the
of
one
none.
thing he does? Yeah, what is the one thing he does best? We don't know. He's good at a lot of things, but what is he great at? And that was the problem with Isaiah Simmons. He was that jack of all trades. You could put him at off-ball linebacker. You could put him at safety. You could put him at nickel corner. But there wasn't one position that he dominated at. And so, yeah, it's like buyer's remorse on that thing. So I don't think they would even really kind of entertain Arvell Reese. But to me, it's either Ruben Bain, if he's there, personally. But if they weren't going to go Ruben Bain, it's got to be the right tackle out of Miami,
Maui Noah.
Awinoa. I mean, because you pair him with Paris Johnson, and you got 2 young studs as your stalwarts, your bookends at tackle for the next decade, and then you just got to figure out the middle. I mean, and they because like what that's the biggest like outside of quarterback, obviously. What's you got to have a left tackle, and then if you can find a young stud at right tackle, I mean, you're set. So I personally would love and hope they, if he's there, go get Ruben Bay Jr., go get your Dwight Freeney 2.0, and pair him with Josh Sweat and a healthy Walter Nolan when he comes back. But if they don't, I really hope it's I can't pronounce his name. Maui Goa.
Maui Noah.
Maui Noah. Yeah. That personally, that's what I hope they do.
All right,
But
so
at the same time, I would not be surprised if anything that they trade back.
All right, so I like your
Let me
idea.
teach you how to
Let's
vibe.
say, all right, let's say Cardinals stick and pick at 3 and take Maui Noah and load up the offensive line and trade Kyler Murray for a solid draft pick. I would have to guess that they would get a second or a third for him. And
I think the very most you can hope to get for Kyler with his contract and everything is the third round pick. I don't think anybody's going to trade a second. Damn sure nobody's going to trade a first. I think the best you can hope for is a third, maybe a fourth. But it's going to be hard because, I mean, you look at what happened this season. I mean, you basically you kept him out. You soft benched him because you didn't want him to get hurt because of the falling out between him and the coaching staff in terms of what was going on and how everything had progressed. But then at the same time, you also made it look like you benched him for Jacoby Brissett, and you bring in Jacoby Brissett, and you completely change your offense. The problem is that people wanted to rag on Kyler and say, "Oh, he wasn't doing as good as Jacoby." Kyler didn't have the opportunity to throw the ball like Jacoby did. Kyler ran the offense how the offensive coordinator asked him and wanted him to. Like, case in point, the game against the Titans, right? We're up by 2 points. We ran the ball 3 straight times. Twice with Michael Carter Jr., a fourth string running back, and once with Imari DiMercado, a third string running back. We kick the ball to you, give the ball back. Kyler was not allowed to audible out of anything in that entire set, that entire set of plays. Like, he was not allowed to audible out. How can you look at a quarterback that has been in this league and not give him the opportunity to go win you that game, knowing what he can do with his arm and with his feet? You have got all the momentum is on Tennessee's side, and you don't even let him have the opportunity. You tell him to turn around and hand the ball off to third and fourth string backs 3 straight times. Then you soft bench him, you put him on IR, and then you completely change the offense around to where Jacoby is allowed to throw the ball 40 times a game. Now, if you're allowed to let a quarterback throw the ball 40 times, I'm pretty sure any competent quarterback is going to be able to put up some stats. So the stats that Jacoby's putting up is because he's getting that opportunity. If you look at Kyler, I think the last time he threw 40 plus times in a game was in the middle of the 2024 season.
That's
And
crazy.
so now you've created this, this, trying to think of the right word for it, but just this whole stance on Kyler that we don't know what we're going to get with him. Is he healthy? Can he play in this league no more? And you got this huge contract associated with him. So there's a good possibility it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins all over again, where nobody's going to trade for him and you're going to have to cut him. You're not going to get anything for him.
That's tough. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Y'all got Brissett under contract. If you're not gonna get value back from Kyler Murray, I would have to say best case scenario is you do take Maui Noah, you leave Kyler Murray there and eat the money. And if Trinidad Chambliss comes out, you draft him anyways in the second.
Yeah,
Only reason
I mean,
why I
like,
say
honestly,
is like y'all got a similar situation that we've got. Y'all just got it at the wrong position. See, we got the position with Calvin Ridley's due $28 million, and L'Jarius Sneed is on a $76 million contract, but he's got this alleged drive-by shooting, so you can't cut him and then he's found innocent. You get sued. You can't void the contract like that, or you're gonna just eat the $8 million and cut him and just eat it anyways. The league probably won't give you the $8 million back, and then with and he's hurt, and then with Calvin Ridley being due $28 million, there's nobody trading good draft capital to pay Calvin Ridley $28 million to play coming off an injury.
No.
At 30.
The only hope I can see for them if they want to get a Ty Simpson or a Trinidad Chambliss. It's gonna have to turn it. They're gonna have to do what New York did last year with Jackson Dart. You're gonna have to hope that the Jets, with their second first round pick, which I think is at 16, if they don't jump in front of that, or the Jets somehow don't take him at 16, you're gonna have to pair up your second round and possibly your third round, and or just find something that gets you back into the first round if you truly think that one of these two are worth taking a flyer on just later in the first round.
See, the tough part with that is the Rams got 2 first. When you get to 13 with the Rams, or you get like you said, Jets 16, Steelers 21. Like you start to get into a spicy situation of if the good QBs in this draft is left and you start getting in the middle of the first round, anything can happen.
Nope. And it stinks because, like I said, if you look into 27, that's your opportunity to get a good quarterback is going to be 27 in the 27 draft. So unless it's a perfect storm that gets you an opportunity that you believe in Ty or you believe in Trinidad and you feel like you can get up there and get him, I think that at this point they're going to have to look at a young quarterback that's already in the league, like a Will Levis, like a Malik, or like a Will Levis, like a Malik Willis, a Marcus Mariota. You're going to have something that comes in and just throw it up into camp and let, whoever comes in compete with Jacoby and see who's going to roll with it week one.
I mean,
That's
these
all.
names
That's
are
the
so
only option you
bad.
have at this point.
I mean, Zach Wilson, Tyrod Taylor, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Garoppolo, Trubisky, Case Keenum, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Brandon Allen, Josh Johnson, Kyle Allen, Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, Tyler Huntley, Easton Stick, Brett Rippon, Skylar Thompson, Tommy DeVito, Sam Howell, Jake Browning, Emory Jones. Like, that is the worst pool of free agent QBs I've ever heard.
Yep, it's bad. It's really bad. Like I said, we picked the absolute worst time to be a bad team because there's no options. There's no Sam Darnold. I mean, there's no real true option that you can kind of look at it and see unless you make a trade.
And that's the tough part, losing capital with a new coach.
Yep. And so that's why I think it really is going to depend on who they hire as head coach, because the only offensive head coaches that they're still having somewhat of a link to is Clint Kubiak and Mike LaFleur. And then the other side of it on defense, you have them looking at Chris Shula and the DC from Jacksonville, Campanelli. Because I know we've, like, from the podcast that I listened to that covers the Cardinals, like, there is, like, I don't know how the process is with Sean McDermott right now, because if he wants to coach this year, there's not really any other options on teams for him to pick from that would be interested in him besides the Cardinals. Because you got to look, of the 5 coaches remaining, Pittsburgh's not going to, pick him up because it's going to be just a repeat of what they've already been going through. You're going to be good. You're going to get to a certain point. You can't get over that hump. Cleveland looks like they really want to go with either one of these young offensive-minded coaches, or if they do stay defense, they're just going to roll with Jim Schwartz. The Raiders going to want to go with a young offensive mind to pair with Fernando Mendoza. And then that only leaves the Cardinals and what was the last team? I'm blanking. There's 5 remaining left. It's Pittsburgh and Buffalo, and obviously he's not going back to Buffalo. So his only real opportunity to coach, if he wants to coach this year, would be really realistically Arizona. And the whole thing about it falls back under that stigma of none of these established coaches want to come to Arizona because of the perceived notions of how the organizations ran, how the owner is, and the fact that it's a tough division and you don't have a quarterback.
And the thing is, the Niners got Purdy and Mac Jones. So if the Niners want to be dirty, they could just sit on Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Then
And if you read the press conference with Shanahan, that's pretty much what he told him. He's like, look, we're not just going to trade good players to trade them.
Because the Seahawks have Darnold, but they got Jalen Milroe like
And they're
developing.
learning.
Like he might get to sit for 2 years under Darnold's whole Darnold's
Sit
whole
there
3-year
entire
contract. I'm just trying to put it together because then you got the Rams who got 2 first-round picks. So like depending on how this season go, you can see them maybe wasting a luxury pick to draft a QB to sit behind.
Because especially for the Rams, it's going to depend on what happens after the season with Stafford. If they win the Super Bowl, I mean, there's a very real possibility that Stafford can just ride off in the sunset like Peyton Manning. I won my second Super Bowl. I'm going to go out on the highest of highs, and then they're going to be looking at a quarterback.
That's tough, man. Like then you gotta say like Joe Milton on the Cowboys, Will Levis on the Titans. You gotta start like looking to poach Davis Mills on the Texans. Mac Jones on the night. Teams have good QBs in the tuck. Meanwhile, teams is like Aaron Glenn really got to be thinking like the worst possible scenario is Moore going back to school and Mendoza going to the Raiders, and then legitimately saying like there's a chance that Justin Fields may be given another chance in New York next year, and people laugh at that, but it's to say like you're not gonna eat $15 million just for the sake of getting something else similar.
Exactly. Because the thing is, like, with everybody talking about the Jets being a possibility for Kyler, it's like they have their own version of that in Justin Fields. The only difference is Kyler throws the ball better than Justin, but you're basically getting a smaller version of the same quarterback you already have on your roster.
Exactly.
So why would you want to do that retread?
Man, it's some tragic situations out here.
Yeah, I mean this is going to come down to the GM looking at the state of the roster, looking at the state of the quarterback position, and trying to figure out. Like I said, I would have loved if they went and made a play for like a Davis Mills at the trade deadline last year, but given how CJ's played this year, and since his rookie year, there's no way that Houston's going to trade Davis Mills.
Now, Hendry say Russell Wilson to Arizona. I mean, I don't see where you would have Jacoby Brissett sitting there under contract and go get Russell Wilson.
If they do trade for another quarterback that's already in the league, it's going to be a younger veteran, like someone that's got a few years under their belt. But they're not going to just go trade for another veteran that's got that's in his past his prime, like a Russell Wilson or a Joe Flacco, because they already have that with Jacoby. Right. Why are you going to want to bring in two of the same type of caliber quarterbacks when you already have one that's on your roster? I mean, it may be one of those things where they look at, like I said, one of these. God, I don't even want to think of a situation where they're looking at a Kenny Pickett or an Aaron O'Donnell, or it's bad. It's just the state of the quarterback position for them is so bad right now, and I don't know what the immediate answer is because it's just nothing. There's no easy answer.
This is like stump the shop because you got to really sit back and think like this is what the front office is having to sit down with a coach over a Zoom call or interview over dinner and try to explain.
Yep. While you're trying to hire someone to lead your franchise after you just fired someone, because like I said, what they said in their press conference when they fired Jonathan Gannon is this is a wins and loss league, and what came down to the reason why they fired Jonathan Gannon is because there wasn't enough wins. How do you sell that to a head coach that's supposed to come in the most important position on your roster? You don't really have an answer for it, and that's quarterback.
Man, that's tough, man. I'm glad that I rebooted tonight because I was trying to remember what I was like. I got a topic, I just can't think of what it is. And then when I finally thought, I said, "Oh, I'm starting over because this is gonna be a good topic."
Yeah, like I mean, like I said, honestly, if depending, even regardless of who they pick as head coach, their only real options, like I said, if they're not going to try to aggressively pursue a tie or a Trinidad Chambliss, it's going to have to be a young quarterback that's already in the league, like a Will Levis, a Malik, um, Tanner McKee from Philadelphia, or maybe looking at Sam Howell again since he's been sitting for the last couple of years, but he's got experience as a starter. Because he's only going to be, I think, 25, 26. So it's going to be a big situation they got to figure out, and they got to figure it out fast.
Oh yeah, it's coming because what you don't want to be is the last guy picking in the coaching carousel, and then as soon as the guy gets in, you're making a decision on Kyler, and the guy feels like he's already been failed.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing that drove me nuts about the whole saga with the offensive coordinator and Gannon is when they brought Gannon in, when they interviewed him, he said one of his quotes was he wouldn't have taken the job if Kyler wasn't the quarterback. So
Mm.
he came in and said that was his guy, that was his quarterback. But then how are you going to say that's your quarterback and then you hire an offensive coordinator who refuses to tailor his offense to fit the strengths of your quarterback?
Ego.
You literally brought in a guy whose offense, the way he wants to run it, he wants someone that's 6'4", 250 to be able to just sit back in that pocket and just sling the thing. And that's not Kyler. That's never
At
going to
all.
be Kyler.
That's
And
not
you
him.
come in and you say that you are all in on Kyler, but you don't have enough of the brass to fire the OC because he's not fixing his scheme to maximize what you have at quarterback. And then it turns into this giant falling out and to the point where they soft bench him. And then as soon as he got hurt and he didn't come back for the Dallas game, I said, that's it. He's not playing another game for the rest of his season. And he's probably played his last game as a Cardinal.
Mm.
Because if you saw the reports and you saw him at practice, he looked fine. He didn't look hurt. He looked
That's what
like
I
he was ready to
seen.
go.
Even when he got
And
hurt in
then,
that game, I was like, "What actually happened to him?"
yeah. And so, like, it just nothing made sense. And then you see the reports and you hear about what's going on behind the scenes. It's like, okay. Basically, him and the OC had a falling out. They weren't able to, figure out the issues that was causing them to not be able to run the offense effectively. So they basically all came together and said, "Look, man, we're just gonna put you on IR, let you get healthy. We'll go into the offseason, help you find your next destination, let you start your career over, and let the OC run the offense with Jacoby." And yeah, like I said, Jacoby put up numbers, but a lot of it was in garbage time, and a lot of it was because they let Jacoby throw the ball 40 plus times a game because you couldn't run the ball anymore.
I just never been a fan of having a $50 million quarterback that you don't want him to throw. Not that he can't throw, because Kyler Murray really can turn it loose, but
Exactly.
not kind of handicapping him and not allowing him to be him. Is not ideal for the Cardinals.
No. Especially like you say, when you bring in a guy as a head coach that says that's my quarterback, and you literally don't support your quarterback, you go to bat for your coordinator before your quarterback. And like I said, it cost Gannon his job. Because if Gannon would have won at least one more game, I guarantee you this, if they would have won one of those games in the middle of that 9-game losing streak, whether it was against Jacksonville or um, Indianapolis, or if they just would have won at least one of those games, he would still be the head coach right now.
That's crazy to think about. Like, I
Yeah,
always look at
like
it like the best possible thing happened for the Titans is another bad year, but it cleared the reset with the coaching staff that was here that wasn't
yep,
getting it done. It give you 10 draft picks It give you the end of Rand Carthon's rebuild. It gives you $100+ million in cap, and you've landed a coach that people didn't think you could get. You know,
Yep.
that's to me that's solid enough. You know, so
Yep. I was joking around the other day with someone. I told him, I was like, man, Tennessee swept us this year. They not only beat us in the season, got Kyler knocked out of the game toward the point where he's never going to play another down for the Cardinals, and they swooped in and got the coach that more than likely we actually had a chance to get if we didn't have the situation we were having in terms of the front office and a quarterback. And you let him get on the plane to Nashville. Like I said, as soon as you switched it from a Zoom to an in person, the
you already
first
kind of
thing
knew.
exactly the owner should have been like, "Hey, what is it going to take for me to come get you right now?" You don't let him get on that plane because once you let him get on that plane in Nashville, I
It's
knew
over
it. He
with.
wasn't going to come. He's not coming back. There's no way. So,
Hey man, hey look, I appreciate you getting in and give me the Cardinals breakdown. Look,
oh,
you the official Arizona Cardinal voice in the Vibe Nation network, and I was just like, man, I was trying to figure it out because I was sitting there wrecking my brain like, what would we have done picking at 4 if we didn't have Cam Ward? There would have been nobody coming out this draft for us to even select in a year where everybody was telling us to tank to get the QB this year. This is going to be the class, and this
yeah,
draft
because
class for free agents and players is beyond thin, and especially in a year where there was double-digit coaches of like vacancies. So like, not only you fighting trying to get the coach, you're trying to figure out who's going to be the QB in a draft where you feel as if, like, realistically, like Maui Noah, Jeremiah Love, in Caleb Downs is like the three players that's out of position that somebody would burn a top 10 pick and say you're getting a very, very, very great player. Outside of that, like if you take Carnell Tight or Tyson early, and when you seen Tetroa McMillan fall, it just seems weird, right? Like I just don't see a world where, you know, teams was expecting to be in a position of having to completely shift everything they doing on a dime.
Yep.
But man, appreciate you hopping in the booth and breaking it down.